It's sunny today, but quite breezy, so if I start blowing around, you'll know it's not me being dramatic, but it's the wind. Earlier in the year, I spoke about tomatoes and how I was going to grow them in a different way. Some things have worked, some things haven't. So without any further ado, let me show you. It was a bit windy yesterday, so I've come back on a less windy day. Much better today because you could hardly hear me speaking because of the wind blowing. Anyway, look, because of the wind, and we had very strong winds in August, my securing of the tomatoes didn't actually work very well. I put the watering can under to try and keep the tomatoes off the floor. Now, the way I had sown the tomatoes, or planted the tomatoes rather, was with string along, with the plan that I could tie the tomatoes along the string. If you can see there, that was the idea, but it didn't work because these larger tomatoes are very heavy. And what I did, thinking I was being clever, but I wasn't, was I cut all the foliage off from the bottom, leaving the foliage at the top, which of course made them top heavy. Silly woman. So let me show you what the smaller tomatoes are like. These are the smaller cherry type tomatoes, which has worked a lot better. So by growing them and letting them do their own thing and put on as much growth as they wanted at a young stage, and then trimming out some of the leaves later, has worked a lot better. And as you can see here, the heavy winds didn't take them down too much. So I'll be doing that again. And we have had loads and loads of tomatoes from here already, and they're ripening up very nicely. And the smaller Rubellicious tomatoes along this bit are doing very well as well. I don't need to next year put the strings along the bottom to tie them along to. That just gets in the way. I'll just have to try and tie them up to their posts a bit better and leave them wider apart. Maybe put extra posts in the middle next year to try and tie them up to, so that I can put the branches along in a horizontal manner. But as you can see, loads of tomatoes. Very pleased with those. They're called Rubellicious, a blight resistant variety. Another silly mistake I made was with labelling, which I do quite a lot. I don't know how I manage to mislabel things quite as well as I do, but I'll have to pay a bit more attention, because as you can see there, that's the blueberries, and that's a cherry tomato, and would have stayed up a lot better if it hadn't been attached to the bigger tomatoes, which took the whole lot down. We have lost a plant here, which I just had to cut out because it had fallen over so much. It does mean that in the kitchen I have got loads of green tomatoes, hoping that they will ripen, and I'm hoping that we get a bit more heat and a bit more sun to help these lovely lot on their way. They're crimson blush, so they're rather large tomatoes, and I do love them for making tomato sauces for having with pasta and things like that. In the winter, I bottle them. Look at the size of those. I'll have to get that one off the floor though, otherwise it'll be eaten by wood lice and slugs and anything that thinks, wow, that's delicious. And the blueberry tomatoes in the garden are ripening beautifully as well. So it seems that cherry tomatoes are doing a lot better this year than the bigger tomatoes, but there's still a little bit of time. It was very cold last night. I hope we don't have too many nights like that. As you can see, they're coming along beautifully there. And what's working quite well is that the bindweed is tying them up to the fence. So I haven't had to use any string there. So this is the only time I've been sort of pleased that there's been bindweed there. But can you see? Loads of them. And I didn't think that this type of tomato was blight resistant. but it seems to be, so that's really, really good. Should have lots of little cherry tomatoes from these, which I'm pleased with. Just difficult knowing exactly when they're ripe because you have to wait for the blueness to go red. And I was hoping they'd stay blue and I could make a blue tomato ketchup, but I have made some and it's come out red. So all in all, the results are okay considering the bad start we had to the year. And if I'd have secured things a bit better, I wouldn't have so many green tomatoes trying to ripen in the kitchen at the moment. And they're the great big ones. I have got bananas in there with them, or I did have actually. I ate the banana this morning, but I will put some in. I'm not sure that it makes any difference if the tomatoes aren't on their way to ripening. If they're very, very young, I don't think putting any amount of bananas in is going to help, but I'll try. What I used to do is put them in egg boxes. So separate them in each little cell, put them in an egg box and leave them there, because if they do go off, they don't touch each other and it doesn't spread. So I've got a very noisy little chicken behind me. Where is she? Whoops, missed. I think she's asking me what I'm doing out here without anything for her, because that's my job, isn't it? Yes. Anyway, tomatoes. I was talking about tomatoes, not about chickens. So the results are quite good. Could have been better. I haven't got as many tomatoes to make the tomato passata, which I usually like to do, and bottle it. But it's all pretty good. So I can't focus when I've got chickens talking to me. So see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.